Hey, it's Webs here, and there's been some nerfs announced for Hearthstone Standard and Wild formats. I don't really cover Wild at all on this channel, but I figured I might as well cover the news on Standard, even if it is a little bit late because of some of the stuff that I had going on today. Especially because some of these changes were things people were screaming to have happen, and it's really cool to actually see Blizzard has decided to make some changes going into next week. So let's begin. So I'm going to go over the wild changes really quickly. The first one being Kel'Thuz is actually getting reverted to his previous nerf state. This makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people were complaining about him in wild, making the game mode unplayable for a lot of players, and it is cool to see they actually listened. It was one of those nerfs that I was really shocked that they reverted in the first place, even if he was just rotating out, as it is very impactful to be able to make high cost spells cost 0, even if it is only every third spell. The second change for wild is Switcheroo is being banned in wild. Makes a lot of sense with Darkness and Stone Tusk Boar both being in wild. That made it easy to actually OTK your opponent, probably on like turn 2 or 3. So that's a pretty good change. And now for standard. Questline Warrior is getting a nerf, which is something that I'm really excited to say because I really hate playing against that deck. The last step of the questline for Warrior is going to require you to play 3 pirates instead of 2, which is a really good change overall. The deck is very consistent as it currently stands, especially because of the fact that there are only 5 weapons in standard, so they might high roll most of the time from their questline reward, and this was a much needed change that should have been probably put into the game when this new set actually came out. I think they were thinking that some of the new pirates would dilute the pool enough where Mistress Might wouldn't always be generated off of the questline reward. But if you've played against Pirate Warrior in any games recently, they always generate additional copies of Mistress Might. It's really frustrating, but it is what it is. The next change is to Puffer Fist, which is lowering his HP to 3 instead of being at 4. This is a change to target Questline Warrior again, but it does change Token Demon Hunter a little bit too. Though I don't think this will make it not be played in that deck in particular, or even in Questline Warrior, as sure it is 1 less HP, but overall it is still a really strong card to actually play in any type of pirate deck, especially if you can easily generate a bunch of weapons. The next change that is being made for standard is Switcheroo is only going to swap the health instead of its stats. So this kills or at least makes harder, the combo between Deathwing and the Twin Fin Twin, though I do think this won't make the card any less playable overall. It just kills a very frustrating deck to actually play against, and it's a pretty good change overall. I can still see this seeing some play because it is draw power for Priest, and that's the main reason a lot of people were running it anyways. They just won't be able to put down 2 12/12s on turn 4 anymore, which is a really good change overall in my opinion. So the next change is Miracle Growth, which is increasing its cost by 1, so it is now a 8 cost spell instead of a 7 cost. This is to try to make it a little bit harder to combo this with Earthen Scales to gain a bunch of armor on like a turn 7 or even a turn earlier, especially in Ramp Druid where there's a bunch of ways to ramp up your mana. I do think this is a decent overall change. It does actually help support the new Druid Legendary a little bit more, since you are generating 8 cost minions now instead of 7 cost minions, which are generally better overall. So I do think this probably will again not see much difference in the play level that it sees, as it is a good draw card and it does help Ramp Druid in a lot of ways. It isn't the main reason why Ramp Druid is really frustrating to actually play against. That would be the next card that's actually getting nerfed, and some of the giants that are actually being used in Druid right now. So speaking of one of the cards that is really frustrating to play against in Druid, Kazakhstan is actually getting a requirement nerf. So instead of only having to have dragons in your deck when you actually play him down, you now have to play 4 other dragons before you can craft a custom deck of treasures. This is a really good change overall. It does kill the possibility of using this in Ramp Druid unless you want to include some other cheaper dragons within the deck, and that is the main reason we're actually trying to do this. This should push it in a direction where it was originally meant to be, was decks that used a bunch of dragons, and I'm really excited to see a change like this, especially because it should allow some of the dragon-based decks to actually come out if they're the only ones that can actually use Kazakhstan, as he is still a very high impactful card overall. And it does make it a lot less frustrating to play against a ramp druid who goes through their entire deck and then just fills it with a bunch of new treasures that will just kill you in one turn. There's been so many games in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and even the months before the new set came out, where that kept happening over and over and again, and it's really frustrating to be able to go from full HP, or even with a bunch of armor, and just instantly die. I'm just glad to see this change go through, and it is probably the change that a lot of people have been wanting since Kazakhstan has been shown to be such a meta-relevant threat when he originally wasn't supposed to be. With that being said, let me know down below which nerf you're looking most forward to, and if any of these killed any deck ideas that you had, or made you want to change up some of your lists. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, bye bye.